The German shepherd stopped 3 feet from the front porch and began backing away. Not barking, not growling. Backing away like the house itself had taken a step toward him. Snow drifted across the broken shingles of the old Walker property, covering decades of rot in a thin white veil, while the upstairs window creaked open on its own with a long, tired whine. Ethan Walker froze at the rusted gate, one gloved hand tightening around the flashlight at his side. "Rex," he called quietly. "Heel." The dog didn't move. That was wrong. Rex had walked through mortar fire in Fallujah without hesitation. He had obeyed commands inside burning compounds, around blood, explosions, screaming men. But now the 85-pound German shepherd stood trembling in the middle of a dead Montana yard, ears pinned flat, amber eyes locked on the second floor of a house abandoned for 22 years. Then the porch light flickered on. Ethan felt the cold settle deeper beneath his jacket. The electricity to this place had been cut before he enlisted. Wind swept through the valley in low, mournful gusts, carrying the scent of pine, frozen dirt, and something older underneath. Smoke. Not fresh smoke. Burned wood soaked into walls for decades. The kind that never truly leaves. The house stood at the edge of Black Hollow Ridge like a carcass forgotten by time. Half the roof had collapsed inward. One side of the porch sagged dangerously toward the snow-covered ground. Dead vines crawled along the cracked siding like black veins. Ethan hadn't seen it since he was 16 years old. Since the fire. Since the night his mother vanished and his father supposedly died inside the flames. He swallowed hard. "Just a house," he muttered, though the words sounded thin even to him. Rex suddenly let out a sharp bark. One bark. Violent. Urgent. The kind he only used for immediate threats. Ethan spun instinctively, pulse jumping, scanning the tree line with military precision. Nothing. Just towering pines swaying under the gray sky and snow drifting between them like ash. But when he turned back toward the house, the upstairs window was shut again. Slowly, Ethan approached the porch steps. The old boards groaned beneath his boots. Every sound felt too loud out here. Too alive. He could hear the faint clink of the chain hanging from the porch swing his father built when Ethan was 8. The swing moved gently now despite the still air beneath the awning. Back and forth. Back and forth. Rex remained in the yard, pacing tight, anxious circles, whining low in his throat. Ethan frowned. "What's gotten into you?" The dog suddenly rushed forward and grabbed Ethan's jacket sleeve between his teeth. Hard. Ethan stumbled backward in shock. "Hey." Rex pulled again. Not aggressive. Desperate. His claws scraped against the frozen porch boards as he tried dragging Ethan away from the front door. Ethan stared at him, stunned. In 6 years together, Rex had never disobeyed him like this. Never. Then Ethan noticed it. Mud. Fresh mud smeared across the porch near the doorway. Not animal tracks. Boot prints. Recent. His pulse slowed into something colder. Someone had been here. Maybe still was. The front door stood slightly open now. Ethan was certain it had been closed when they arrived. A thin strip of darkness waited beyond it. The smell leaking out made his stomach tighten. Rot. Mildew. Wet wood. And something metallic hidden underneath. Rex lowered himself protectively in front of Ethan, fur bristling along his spine. A deep growl rolled from his chest. Ethan reached for the pistol holstered beneath his coat by pure reflex before stopping himself. Old habits. Old wars. He exhaled slowly into the freezing air, his breath curling white before him. Somewhere inside the house, something heavy hit the floor. Both man and dog froze. Silence followed. Then, faintly, from somewhere upstairs, came the sound of a child humming. The humming stopped so suddenly it felt unnatural, like someone had cut a wire deep inside the walls. Ethan stood motionless at the doorway, every muscle tightened beneath his coat, while snow swirled behind him through the broken porch rails. Rex remained low to the ground, blocking Ethan's path with his body, his growl vibrating through the old boards beneath their feet. The house smelled wetter now. Older. As though the storm outside had somehow seeped into the wood decades ago and never left. Ethan slowly pulled his flashlight free and swept the beam into the darkness ahead. Dust drifted through the pale light like ash suspended underwater. The narrow hallway looked smaller than he remembered. The faded wallpaper peeled away in long curling strips. Water stains spread across the ceiling like bruises. Yet something felt wrong beyond the decay itself. The floor near the entrance was clean. Not perfectly clean, but cleaner than the rest. Like someone had walked through recently enough to disturb the dust. Ethan crouched carefully. Fresh boot prints. Size 11 maybe. Deep heel marks still damp from melted snow. His pulse slowed into the steady rhythm the Marine Corps had burned into him years ago. Observe first. Move second. Rex suddenly whimpered. Ethan looked over. The dog was staring toward the living room archway now, ears twitching sharply. Then came another sound. Tick, tick, tick. Soft, metallic. Ethan angled the flashlight toward the living room. At first he saw only shadows and overturned furniture draped in white sheets. Then the beam settled on the far wall. An old grandfather clock stood there, moving. The pendulum swung gently side to side. Tick, tick, tick. Ethan felt the back of his neck tighten. There was no power here. No heat. No maintenance for over 2 decades. Yet the clock was running. Rex barked violently. The sound exploded through the house and echoed upstairs. Immediately the pendulum stopped. Silence rushed back, and so fast Ethan could hear his own breathing. Then another noise came from somewhere deeper inside the home. A floorboard creaked overhead. Slow. Heavy. Not the settling of an old house. A footstep. Ethan stepped fully inside now, despite the knot forming in his stomach. Rex pressed against his leg but refused to move farther ahead. The beam from the flashlight, swept across family photos, collapsed on the floor beneath cracked glass. Ethan recognized them instantly, even under layers of mildew. Christmas mornings. Fishing trips near Black Hollow Creek. His mother smiling beside the porch swing before everything went wrong. He swallowed hard and kept moving. The air grew colder, deeper. Inside the house. Not outside cold. Still cold. Dead cold. His flashlight drifted toward the kitchen entrance and stopped abruptly. Something hung from the doorway. Ethan moved closer slowly. It was a child's bracelet. Faded blue string woven with tiny silver beads. One bead shaped like a star. His chest tightened immediately. He knew that bracelet. He had made it at summer camp when he was 9 years old. For his younger brother. Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he reached toward it. But halfway there he froze. The bracelet looked new. Not untouched by time. Not burned. Not weathered. Clean. As if someone had placed it there recently. Behind him, Rex began backing away again. Low, panicked sounds rolled from his throat. Ethan turned sharply. The German Shepherd was staring toward the staircase at the far end of the hallway. Ethan followed his gaze upward. The second floor disappeared into darkness except for one thing. Wet footprints. Bare footprints. Fresh water glistened across the wooden stairs leading upward, one step at a time. Ethan's breath caught. Snow had not touched those stairs in 22 years. Another reek of smoke drifted through the hallway suddenly, stronger this time, carrying with it a faint scent of burned fabric and something sweeter beneath it. Old perfume. His mother's perfume. The same lavender scent that used to linger on his blankets when she tucked him into bed during winter storms. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second, memory crashing into him without warning. His mother whispering through tears. The sound of shouting downstairs. Flames reflected in the hallway mirror. Then Rex lunged forward unexpectedly and slammed his body against Ethan's leg hard enough to nearly knock him sideways. At that exact moment, something shattered upstairs. Glass exploded somewhere beyond the dark hallway above them. Ethan jerked the flashlight upward just in time to see movement cross the second-floor landing. Fast. Human-sized. Gone in an instant. Then came the sound again. Not humming this time. A child's voice. Very soft. Ethan. The voice vanished the moment Ethan raised the flashlight toward the second floor. Silence crashed over the house. Again, thick and suffocating, broken only by the faint whistle of winter wind slipping through cracks in the walls. Rex barked sharply at the staircase, paws sliding against the hardwood as he backed away another step. Ethan could feel the dog trembling beside him now. Not fear alone. Urgency. The kind that comes before disaster. Ethan stared at the dark landing above. Every instinct told him to leave. Yet another feeling had begun crawling beneath the fear. Recognition. That voice had not sounded random. It had sounded familiar. Younger. Softer. Like an echo dragged out of childhood. He swallowed slowly. Nathan. The name slipped out before he could stop it. The house answered with a long groan somewhere deep in the walls. Ethan's younger brother had been officially declared dead after the fire. Closed casket. No remains recovered. Just ashes and paperwork and a sheriff who told a grieving 16-year-old boy that sometimes fire takes everything. Yet the bracelet hanging in the doorway had belonged to Nathan. Ethan knew that with absolute certainty. Rex suddenly jerked his head toward the kitchen. A new sound drifted through the house. Water dripping. Slow. Rhythmic. Ethan moved carefully through the narrow hallway, flashlight beam shaking slightly across peeling wallpaper and collapsed shelves. The kitchen looked frozen in time. Rusted pans still hung beside the old stove. Mold spread across the cabinets in dark blooms. Frost crept along the inside of the windows despite the dead furnace. But near the sink, something impossible made Ethan stop cold. A ceramic mug sat on the counter. Steam curled faintly from the top. Fresh coffee. Ethan stared at it in disbelief. His pulse hammered harder now. Someone was here. Not days ago. Not hours ago. Right now? Rex growled low and deep, eyes fixed not on the mug, but on the far pantry door standing slightly ajar. The dripping sound came from inside. Ethan approached slowly, every board creaking beneath his weight. The smell changed again near the pantry. Damp earth, wet stone, and beneath it something metallic that reminded him too much of old military bunkers after rainstorms overseas. He nudged the pantry door open. With one hand. Inside, shelves leaned crooked against the walls, lined with dusty canned foods swollen from age. But the back wall had been disturbed recently. Scrape marks cut through the dust near the floor. Someone had moved something heavy there. Rex suddenly lunged forward and began pawing furiously at the wooden boards beneath the lowest shelf. Ethan knelt beside him and swept the flashlight lower. There, a narrow gap hidden behind the shelving. A concealed door. Before Ethan could react, a loud crack echoed upstairs. The entire house shuddered violently. Dust rained from the ceiling beams. Rex barked explosively. Ethan looked upward instinctively just as another sound followed. Footsteps. Running footsteps crossing the second floor directly above them. Fast. Desperate. Then silence. Ethan's breathing turned shallow. This place was unstable. The roof sagged worse than he first thought. Every minute inside increased the risk of collapse. Snowstorms had weakened the structure for decades, and now the mountain wind outside was growing stronger. Through the cracked kitchen window, Ethan could see pine trees bending harder beneath darkening skies. Another storm was rolling down Black Hollow Ridge fast. If the roads iced over again tonight, they could be trapped up here until morning. Rex stopped pawing abruptly. His ears lifted. Then came a faint mechanical sound from behind the hidden pantry door. Click, click, like an old cassette player struggling to start. Ethan exchanged one long look with the German shepherd before pulling the shelf aside with both hands. The wood screamed across the floorboards. Behind it sat a narrow staircase descending into darkness beneath the house. Cold air breathed upward from below, carrying the unmistakable smell of smoke and lavender. His mother's perfume again. Then the cassette player crackled to life somewhere underneath them. Static hissed through hidden speakers, followed by a woman's trembling voice. If you found this, you cannot stay after dark. Ethan froze completely. Rex began whining in panic. Above them, somewhere on the second floor, a door slowly creaked open. The voice on the cassette trembled beneath layers of static and age. Ethan, if you are hearing this, it means he never told you the truth. The tape clicked unevenly, as if the machine itself were struggling against time. Ethan stood frozen at the top of the hidden staircase while icy air drifted upward from below, carrying the scent of damp concrete and burned wood. Rex pressed tightly against his leg now, refusing to let him descend. The German shepherd kept glancing toward the second floor behind them, whining softly each time the old house groaned in the wind. Ethan's chest tightened painfully at the sound of his mother's voice. 22 years. 22 years believing she abandoned him after the fire. Yet her voice sounded terrified, not cruel. Human memory was a strange thing. Sometimes trauma did not erase the past. It buried it alive. Another heavy creak echoed overhead. Ethan looked toward the dark staircase leading upstairs. Whoever was moving around up there had gone silent again. Watching maybe. Waiting. He should leave. Every instinct trained into him screamed that this situation was wrong. Unknown person. Isolated structure. Incoming storm. Unsafe building. But the tape recorder crackled again before he could move. Do not trust the house after sunset, his mother whispered weakly. And if Rex brought you here, Ethan's eyes narrowed instantly. Rex? His dog was only 6 years old. This tape was decades old. The cassette hissed loudly before cutting off for a second. Then her voice returned softer than before. The shepherd will know where he hid it. Ethan slowly looked down at Rex. The dog stared back at him with wide amber eyes shining in the flashlight beam. A cold shiver moved across Ethan's shoulders that had nothing to do with winter. The storm outside intensified suddenly. Wind slammed against the side of the house hard enough to rattle the windows. Snow hissed through cracks in the walls. Somewhere upstairs a door banged shut violently. Rex barked once toward the ceiling. Ethan had spent years convincing himself that coming back here would finally quiet the ghosts in his head. Instead, the house felt awake now. Listening, he crouched slowly beside the hidden staircase and swept the flashlight downward. Narrow wooden steps disappeared into darkness beneath the foundation. The beam caught old pipes running along stone walls slick with moisture. Then something near the bottom reflected light back toward him. Metal. Ethan squinted harder. A military footlocker sat partially hidden beneath a hanging tarp downstairs. His breathing slowed. His father owned one exactly like that. Same faded olive paint. Same brass corners scratched from transport. Ethan remembered polishing those corners as a child while his father drank whiskey and listened to old war records beside the fireplace. Rex suddenly moved in front of the staircase again, physically blocking Ethan's descent. Ethan frowned. Move. The dog did not obey. Instead, Rex placed one paw directly against Ethan's chest. Firm. Gentle. Pleading. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. You brought me here, he whispered quietly. Now you do not want me to go down there. Another loud crack split through the house. Dust burst from the ceiling above them. Ethan instinctively looked upward just as part of the upstairs hallway sagged visibly with a long groaning sound. The structure was failing faster now. If he went downstairs and the house collapsed, neither of them might get out before the storm buried the road entirely. His radio already had no signal this deep in Black Hollow Ridge. No cell service. No nearby neighbors for miles. The practical decision was obvious. Leave now. Come back tomorrow with authorities. Yet deep inside, another truth pressed harder. If someone really was hiding here, they would be gone by morning. And whatever his mother left behind might disappear with them. Rex suddenly jerked his head toward the living room. Ethan turned instantly. At first he saw nothing except darkness and drifting dust. Then his flashlight landed on the far wall. A photograph had appeared there. Ethan was certain it had not been there before. The frame hung crooked beside the fireplace, freshly wiped clean of dust while the rest of the wall remained filthy. Ethan approached slowly, pulse hammering harder with every step. The photograph showed 2 young boys standing beside this very house during summer. One was Ethan at around age 9. The other boy stood beside him smiling beneath a red baseball cap. Nathan. Alive. Ethan's throat tightened. On the bottom corner of the photo, someone had written 3 words recently in dark ink. He remembered you. Rex let out a frightened whine behind him. Then, from somewhere upstairs directly above the living room ceiling, came the unmistakable sound of slow footsteps crossing toward the staircase. The footsteps above them stopped directly over Ethan's head. Not pacing anymore. Standing still. Listening. Ethan slowly lowered the photograph, his pulse hammering so hard he could feel it behind his eyes. Snow slammed against the windows outside, while the old house groaned beneath the pressure of the storm rolling across Black Hollow Ridge. Rex pressed tightly against Ethan's leg again, staring upward with ears pinned flat. Then came a new sound. 3 soft knocks from the ceiling above. Knock. 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 Ethan's breath caught. The exact same pattern Nathan used as a child whenever they shared secrets through the bedroom wall. A memory flashed across Ethan's mind so vividly it hurt. 2 brothers lying awake during thunderstorms. Nathan tapping that rhythm after their father passed out downstairs beside empty whiskey bottles. Ethan stared upward into the darkness. Nathan. Silence answered him at first. Then another sound drifted down slowly through the floorboards. Crying. Very faint. Very old. The house suddenly felt smaller around him. Tighter. Rex whined sharply and pulled backward toward the hidden staircase leading underground. Ethan looked down at the dog in confusion. For the first time since arriving, Rex was no longer trying to keep him away from somewhere. He was trying to lead him there. Another crack thundered through the structure overhead. Dust burst from the ceiling beams. Ethan made his decision. All right, he whispered. We go down. The staircase beneath the pantry creaked beneath their weight as they descended slowly into darkness. The temperature dropped immediately. Ethan's flashlight cut through narrow stone walls slick with moisture and decades of mildew. The smell down here was overwhelming now. Smoke, wet earth, rusted metal, and lavender perfume lingering faintly beneath it all like a ghost refusing to leave. Halfway down the stairs, Ethan noticed strange markings carved into the wooden railing. Thin lines grouped in sets of 5. Dozens of them. Tally marks. Someone had been counting days down here. Rex stopped suddenly near the bottom step and growled low toward the darkness ahead. Ethan angled the flashlight forward carefully. The basement stretched farther than he remembered. Much farther. The old cellar had been expanded at some point beneath the house into a maze of crude concrete walls and support beams. Military storage crates lined one side beneath dusty tarps. An old lantern flickered weakly near the back wall. Fresh fuel. Someone had lit it recently. Ethan moved deeper inside slowly. His flashlight passed across shelves stacked with canned food, bottled water, medical supplies, blankets. Not abandoned supplies. Organized supplies. Enough for someone to survive down here for months. Then his beam landed on the wall beside the lantern, and Ethan froze completely. Photographs. Hundreds of them. Taped carefully across the concrete wall from floor to ceiling. Most showed Ethan throughout his life. Ethan graduating boot camp. Ethan in dress blues. Ethan overseas beside armored vehicles. Ethan standing beside Rex at a military ceremony only 8 months ago. His stomach turned cold. Someone had been watching him for years. Rex barked sharply toward the far corner of the basement. Ethan spun instinctively, flashlight beam cutting across shadows until it landed on a narrow cot tucked against the wall. Blankets still warm. A coffee thermos half full beside it. Whoever lived here had left moments ago. Then Ethan saw the cassette player sitting on a small wooden desk nearby. The tape inside continued spinning slowly. Static crackled through tiny speakers before his mother's voice returned again, strained and frightened. Ethan, if your father finds this tape before you do, none of us will survive long enough to leave. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. His father. Alive. The truth landed slowly inside him like ice water. The fire had not killed him. Every official report. Every funeral, every year of grief had been built on a lie. Rex suddenly moved toward the military footlocker in the corner and began pawing at it urgently. Ethan knelt beside the old green trunk, pulse shaking now beneath his skin. The brass latch bore his father's initials burned into the metal. D.W. Daniel Walker. Ethan lifted the lid carefully. Inside lay stacks of newspaper clippings about missing children across Montana during the late 1990s. Old sheriff reports. Handwritten maps. Family photographs Ethan had never seen before. Then at the very bottom sat a faded red baseball cap. Nathan's cap. Ethan picked it up slowly with trembling hands. Folded beneath it was a small piece of paper written in childish handwriting. Ethan recognized it instantly. His brother's writing. For words only. He is not dead. Rex began barking furiously toward the darkness behind them. Ethan turned just as the basement lantern suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the basement, so completely Ethan could no longer tell where the walls ended. The storm above groaned through the foundation like distant artillery, while Rex barked furiously somewhere beside him. Ethan gripped the flashlight tighter and slammed it against his palm once. The beam flickered weakly back to life. For one brief second the light swept across the basement and caught movement near the far hallway. A figure. Tall. Thin. Gone instantly. Ethan's pulse exploded. Stop. His voice echoed harshly through the underground chambers. No answer came back except the hiss of static from the cassette player still spinning somewhere in the dark. Rex lunged forward suddenly, claws scraping concrete as he tore down the narrow hallway after the figure. Rex! Ethan sprinted after him without thinking. The deeper corridor looked newer than the rest of the basement. Reinforced beams. Fresh electrical wiring. New locks mounted along old doors. Someone had been living beneath this house for years. Then Ethan heard it. Crying. Not upstairs this time. Down here. Close. Human. Rex stopped abruptly before a steel door at the end of the corridor and began whining desperately. Ethan reached them seconds. Later, breath clouding in the freezing air. A faded red handprint marked the door at eye level. Child-sized. His flashlight beam trembled downward toward the handle. The lock had been broken recently from the inside. Ethan slowly pushed the door open. The room beyond stole the air from his lungs. It was a child's bedroom frozen in time. Small twin bed, toy trucks, baseball cards taped neatly along the walls, glow-in-the-dark stars still clinging weakly to the ceiling. Dust covered everything except the bed itself. That part was clean, used recently. Ethan stepped forward numbly. On the bedside table sat a framed photograph of two boys smiling beside Black Hollow Creek. Him and Nathan, older now, teenagers maybe 13 and 10. Ethan frowned immediately. That made no sense. The fire happened before Nathan reached 10 years old. The timeline was wrong. Rex whimpered softly beside the bed and lowered himself to the floor. Ethan's eyes drifted slowly toward the closet door, standing slightly open across the room. A dim yellow light glowed inside. Then came a voice from the shadows. Older now, hoarse from years of silence. I knew he would bring you back someday. Ethan froze completely. The closet door creaked wider. A man stepped out slowly into the weak flashlight beam. Mid-30s. Pale skin. Exhausted eyes. Thin beard streaked with gray. He wore layered flannel shirts and heavy winter clothing despite the underground heat. But none of that mattered. Ethan saw the red baseball cap first. Then the eyes. Same blue-gray eyes from childhood. Nathan. Ethan physically staggered backward, as if the floor itself had shifted beneath him. No, he whispered. No, you died. Nathan looked at him with something more painful than anger. Sadness. That is what they told you. Ethan's throat tightened instantly. 22 years of grief cracked open inside him all at once. How? The word barely escaped his mouth. Nathan glanced downward for a long moment before answering quietly. Mom got me out before the fire spread. She hid me down here. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. Why would she hide you? Nathan's eyes filled slowly with tears he clearly hated showing. Because Dad was taking children. Silence crushed the room. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. Nathan continued carefully, voice trembling beneath years of buried fear. Not hurting them. Hiding them. Boys from bad homes. Runaways. Kids nobody looked for fast enough. He said he was saving them from people worse than him. Ethan shook his head immediately. No, but even as he denied it, memories were already returning. Strange children at the house late at night. Locked basement doors. His father warning him never to go below the pantry. Nathan wiped his face quickly. Mom found out. They fought constantly after that. She wanted to leave with us. Dad refused. Ethan felt physically sick now. The newspaper clippings. The hidden rooms. The supplies underground. Suddenly all of it connected. The fire, Ethan whispered. Dad started it. Nathan slowly nodded. He thought Mom told the sheriff everything. Ethan closed his eyes hard as another buried memory slammed into him. His mother shoving him toward the front yard through smoke while screaming Nathan's name somewhere deeper inside the house. Rex rested his head gently against Ethan's shaking hand. The dog had known. Somehow from the moment they arrived, Rex had sensed someone alive beneath the ruins. Nathan looked down at the German shepherd quietly. He looks just like the old one. Ethan's eyes snapped upward instantly. What old one? Nathan stared at Rex for a long silent second before speaking. The shepherd Mom used to send messages through. Ethan frowned in confusion. Nathan swallowed hard. Rex is not the first dog that brought someone back to this house. Then the lights overhead suddenly flickered on for the first time in decades. And somewhere above them, the front door of the house slowly opened. The sound of the front door opening echoed faintly through the floors above them like the house itself had taken a breath. Nathan's face changed instantly. All the warmth from seeing his brother again vanished beneath old fear. He is back early, he whispered. Ethan stared at him in confusion. Who? Nathan did not answer right away. He simply reached toward the lantern beside the bed and turned the flame. Lower until shadows swallowed most of the room again. Rex moved immediately in front of both brothers, body rigid, ears forward, eyes fixed toward the hallway outside the hidden bedroom. Ethan could hear it now too. Slow footsteps crossing the main floor above them. Heavy, deliberate, boards creaking one after another. Not random movement. Someone who knew the house well. Nathan swallowed hard. The sheriff. Ethan frowned immediately. Sheriff Coulter retired 15 years ago. Nathan gave a weak, humorless smile. That is what the town believes. Silence settled heavily between them. Ethan felt his thoughts spiraling. His father alive. Nathan alive. A hidden basement beneath his childhood home. Missing children. A sheriff connected to all of it somehow. None of it fit together cleanly yet. But one thing already hurt more than anything else. Nathan had spent 22 years alone beneath the ruins while Ethan built an entire life believing his brother was dead. Ethan looked at him carefully now. The signs were everywhere once the shock faded. Nathan's hands shook slightly from years without sunlight and normal human contact. His clothes were clean but patched repeatedly by hand. There were books stacked beside the bed. Old cassette tapes. Drawings. Small attempts to build a life underground where time stopped moving. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. Why did you never come find me? The question escaped rougher than he intended. Nathan looked away immediately. I tried once. Ethan froze. Nathan reached beneath the bed and pulled out an old metal lunchbox covered in rust. Inside sat dozens of unopened letters tied together with faded string. Every envelope carried Ethan's name written in the same familiar handwriting. Ethan stared at them in silence. Some letters looked decades old, others newer. Nathan rubbed his thumb nervously along the edge of one envelope. Mom said if Dad survived the fire, he would look for us. Sheriff Coulter promised to protect me if I stayed hidden until things were safe. Ethan frowned. And you believed him for 22 years. Nathan laughed softly then, but the sound carried no joy at all. When you are 10 years old and everyone you love disappears in one night, you believe the adults who still feed you. The storm above intensified again. Wind moaned through the foundation while snow rattled against the old windows upstairs. Another set of footsteps crossed the floor overhead. Slower now. Searching. Rex let out a low warning growl. Ethan instinctively rested one hand against the dog's neck. The familiar warmth of Rex's fur grounded him for a moment inside the chaos. Nathan watched the German shepherd quietly. He trusts you completely, he murmured. Ethan nodded faintly. He saved my life overseas twice. Nathan's eyes softened with something almost like grief. The old shepherd saved mine. Ethan looked at him carefully. What was his name? Nathan hesitated before answering. Ghost. Ethan felt a strange chill move through him. He remembered Ghost now. A massive sable German shepherd his mother rescued shortly before the fire. The dog vanished the same night the house burned. Nathan stared down at the floor. Mom used to say dogs know when people are hiding pain they cannot speak out loud. His voice cracked slightly. Ghost stayed with me down here after the fire. For almost 8 years. Ethan felt tears burn unexpectedly behind his eyes. Rex slowly walked over and rested his head against Nathan's knee as if he somehow understood every word. Nathan froze at the contact. Then his shaking hand slowly moved into the thick fur along Rex's neck. The German shepherd leaned closer immediately. Ethan watched his younger brother break apart silently beneath that simple act of trust. No dramatic sobbing. No speeches. Just 22 years of loneliness finally meeting something gentle again. Then the basement lights flickered once more. Footsteps stopped directly above the hidden hallway. Ethan's military instincts returned instantly. Someone upstairs had found the pantry entrance. Nathan's face drained of color. He cannot know you are here, he whispered desperately. If Coulter sees you, he will never let either of us leave this mountain. Ethan's jaw tightened. Why? Nathan looked straight into his brother's eyes for the first time since the reunion. Because Dad never died. Silence crashed through the room. Ethan's heartbeat staggered unevenly inside his chest. Nathan's next words came barely above a whisper. And the sheriff has been hiding him inside this house the entire time. The words hung in the basement like freezing smoke. Ethan stared at Nathan while the storm battered the old house overhead, and every piece of his childhood twisted into something unrecognizable. His father alive, hidden for decades beneath the same roof where the town believed he died a hero trying to save his family. Sheriff Coulter protecting him all these years. Ethan felt anger rise first, hot and sharp, but beneath it came something worse. Grief. The kind that arrives when a person realizes their memories were built on lies carefully stitched together by people they trusted. Rex suddenly lifted his head and growled toward the hallway again. Slow footsteps crossed directly above the hidden basement entrance. Closer now. Nathan moved quickly toward the lantern and extinguished the flame completely. Darkness folded around them except for Ethan's flashlight beam cutting weakly across the room. There is another exit, Nathan whispered urgently. Mom built it after the fire. Ethan frowned. Mom? Nathan nodded once. She came back for years. Ethan froze. What? Nathan swallowed hard. She never abandoned us. The confession hit harder than everything before it. Nathan reached beneath the bed and pulled out a weathered wooden box wrapped carefully in cloth. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes labeled with dates stretching across 2 decades. Beside them sat photographs of a woman standing near distant gas stations, churches, roadside diners. Older now, gray in her hair, but unmistakably their mother. Ethan's hands trembled as he lifted one photograph. She looked tired, fragile, yet alive. Nathan's voice shook softly in the dark. She tried to take me away 3 different times. Coulter always found us before we reached the highway. Ethan closed his eyes briefly as guilt crashed through him. All these years he blamed her for disappearing, while she had spent decades trying to save what remained of her family. Above them the floorboards creaked loudly. Again, a heavy object dragged across the kitchen floor. Rex barked once, deep and sharp. Ethan's military instincts surged back instantly. We move now. Nathan nodded quickly and led them through a narrow concrete tunnel hidden behind the child's bedroom closet. The passage smelled of wet earth and rusted pipes. Low overhead beams forced Ethan to crouch while icy groundwater soaked through his boots. Rex stayed close between the brothers, constantly glancing behind them as if tracking something unseen in the darkness. Halfway through the tunnel, Nathan suddenly stopped near a rusted service door. His breathing grew uneven. Ethan noticed it immediately. Fear, not of the house, not of the sheriff, of what waited outside. Nathan, Ethan said quietly, when was the last time you left this mountain? Nathan stared downward for several long seconds. 9 years ago. Ethan felt his chest tighten painfully again. 9 years underground. 9 years believing the outside world was still dangerous enough to hide from. Rex gently nudged Nathan's shaking hand with his nose. The simple gesture steadied him more than words could. Nathan managed a weak smile and scratched behind the dog's ears. Ghost used to do that too, he whispered. Ethan looked down at Rex carefully now. The German shepherd's calm presence suddenly felt larger than coincidence. Like some invisible thread had carried loyalty through generations of broken people and ruined places. Nathan slowly opened the service door. Cold mountain air rushed into the tunnel instantly, along with the scent of pine and snow. Ethan stepped outside first and nearly stopped breathing. Dawn was beginning to rise beyond Black Hollow Ridge. Pale blue light spread across the frozen valley while snow drifted softly through the trees. After hours trapped beneath the house, the open sky felt almost holy. Nathan shielded his eyes against the light like a man stepping into another world. Rex stayed beside him every second. Then came the sound that shattered the quiet. A truck engine starting near the front of the property. Ethan turned sharply through the trees just in time to see headlights cut through the storm near the old house. Sheriff Coulter's truck. Leaving. Nathan's face tightened with panic. He knows, he whispered. Ethan watched the vehicle disappear slowly down the mountain road before speaking. No, his voice stayed calm now. Controlled. He knows we are alive. Silence settled between the brothers as snow drifted around them in the pale morning light. Ethan looked back one final time toward the ruined house standing dark against the ridge. For the first time all night, it no longer felt haunted. Just tired. Like a place that had spent decades holding secrets too heavy for wood and stone alone. Then Nathan quietly handed Ethan one final cassette tape from the wooden box. No label. No date. Just 3 words written carefully across the front in their mother's handwriting. For both my boys. Morning spread slowly across Black Hollow Ridge, pale gold light bleeding through the storm clouds while snow drifted softly over the ruined property behind them. Ethan sat on the tailgate of his old truck with the final cassette tape resting silently in his hands. Nathan remained nearby beneath the pine trees, wrapped in one of Ethan's spare military blankets, while Rex lay stretched across the space between them like a living bridge holding 2 broken halves of a family together. For a long time none of them spoke. The mountain itself seemed quieter now. Not healed, just emptied. As though the house had finally released something it carried for too many years. Ethan looked toward Nathan again. His younger brother still flinched whenever distant sounds echoed through the forest. Every passing gust of wind made his shoulders tighten instinctively. 22 years hidden underground did not disappear in one sunrise. But there was color returning to Nathan's face now beneath the cold morning light. Small things. Human things. Hope arriving carefully after fear. Ethan finally slid the cassette into the truck's old tape player. Static crackled through worn speakers. Then came their mother's voice one last time. Older now. Tired. Yet warm enough to stop Ethan's breathing completely. "My boys," she whispered softly. "If you are hearing this together, then somehow God was kinder than I deserved." Ethan lowered his head while Nathan stared silently through the windshield, eyes already shining with tears. The tape hissed gently beneath the sound of mountain wind outside. "I wanted to come back for both of you every single day," their mother continued. "But fear can make prisons out of good people. Sheriff Coulter believed he was protecting this family. Your father believed he was saving children the world forgot. And maybe somewhere deep down they both stopped knowing the difference between protection and control." Ethan closed his eyes painfully. Rex rested his chin against Ethan's knee the moment his breathing changed. The German Shepherd had done that overseas too. Always before panic attacks. Always before memories turned dark. Some creatures listened without needing words. Their mother's voice trembled slightly now through the speakers. "Nathan, if you survived long enough to hear this, I need you to forgive yourself for hiding. You were only a child." Nathan covered his face quietly with one shaking hand. "And Ethan, my strong, stubborn boy, I need you to forgive yourself for leaving." Ethan froze. The words hit harder than anything else that night. Leaving. He had spent years carrying guilt he never fully understood. Guilt for surviving the fire. Guilt for joining the Marines. Guilt for building a life while everyone else remained trapped inside old ruins. The tape clicked softly before continuing. "None of this was your fault." Silence filled the truck cab after those words. Deep silence. The kind that hurts before it heals. Outside, snowflakes drifted through sunlight like ash turning into something gentler. Nathan wiped his eyes slowly and looked toward Ethan for the first time without fear between them. "She really tried," he whispered. Ethan nodded faintly. "Yeah." The tape crackled one final time. "There is one last thing you both deserve to know." Ethan and Nathan exchanged a glance. Their mother inhaled shakily before speaking again. "Your father died 3 winters ago." Ethan's eyes narrowed immediately. "What?" Nathan looked equally stunned. The tape continued. "Sheriff Coulter buried him beyond the North Ridge beside the old fire tower. He never told you because some men become so consumed by guarding secrets that they forget how to release them." Ethan stared out through the windshield toward the distant mountain ridge while cold realization settled over him slowly. All this time they had been hiding from a ghost, not a man. Fear had survived longer than truth. The tape reached its end with one final whisper from their mother. "If there is still a shepherd beside you when this ends, trust where he leads next." Then the cassette clicked off forever. Silence returned. Ethan sat motionless for a long time afterward while the truck heater hummed softly and Rex breathed steadily beside him. Finally Nathan spoke quietly. "What happens now?" Ethan looked toward the mountain road winding down through the valley below. Somewhere beyond those trees waited police reports, missing records, questions from a town built on lies, and a world Nathan barely remembered anymore. Nothing ahead would be simple. Nothing behind them could ever fully disappear. Rex suddenly lifted his head and stared toward the ridge above the ruined house. Ethan followed the dog's gaze. For one brief moment, through drifting snow and morning fog, Ethan thought he saw the silhouette of a woman standing near the porch beneath the pine trees. Long coat, wind moving through gray hair. Then the figure was gone. Nathan frowned softly. "What is it?" Ethan looked down at Rex instead. The German Shepherd's tail thumped gently once against the truck floor before he rested his head back on Ethan's lap, like his work here was finally done. Ethan stared toward the empty ridge one last time as the morning light climbed slowly over Black Hollow Ridge. Some homes never stop holding echoes, and some dogs, maybe, are sent to lead people through them. When a battle-worn U.S. Marine returns to his ruined childhood home deep in the snowy mountains of Montana, his loyal German shepherd suddenly refuses to let him enter, triggering a chilling chain of discoveries that uncover decades of hidden secrets, buried trauma, and a family tragedy that was never truly over. As the former Marine follows strange sounds, mysterious footprints, forgotten cassette tapes, and terrifying clues hidden beneath the collapsing house. He learns that loyalty sometimes survives longer than fear, and that some wounds remain alive long after the fire fades. This emotional cinematic journey blends suspense, mystery, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between a military dog and his handler, making it one of the most unforgettable animal stories for viewers who love deep emotional storytelling. Filled with haunting atmosphere, shocking revelations, hidden underground rooms, and powerful moments of forgiveness, this story captures why animal stories continue to move millions of people around the world. The connection between the U.S. Marine and the German Shepherd becomes the emotional heart of the entire mystery as they search for truth together through snowstorms, broken memories, and silence that lasted more than 20 years. Fans of heartfelt rescue dramas, suspenseful animal stories, military storytelling, and emotional German Shepherd videos will experience a powerful blend of tension and hope from beginning to end, with cinematic narration, emotional twists, and deeply human themes about loss, guilt, family, and second chances. This unforgettable journey stands out among modern animal stories because it does not only explore survival, but also the quiet grace of healing, as old lies collapse and long-lost truths finally emerge from beneath the ruins. The former Marine begins to understand why the German Shepherd trusted his instincts before anyone else could see the danger hidden inside the house. For audiences who love emotional mysteries, military drama, and meaningful animal stories with layered storytelling and strong emotional payoff, this haunting tale delivers a moving experience that lingers long after the final scene fades away.